Use your words.
We are recording now.
Sweet. So tell me exactly how much Sam hates you.
Murder Sam?
Murder Sam. Why does Murder Sam hate you?
I read up on one of the serial killers he's had to buy ephemera from because I think he's on the no-write list. And I figured out that the guy really likes poetry. And so I sent him a poem that's like, has some erotic undertones if you read it that way. It's by Blake, who's a religious poet.
Right.
And yeah, and like asked him about like who should I read and like what should I study, and he like immediately wrote me back.
Yeah.
And it was so creepy.
And awesome.
It's a serial killer, I'll just say that. And Sam was like, damn it. Ah! Yeah, so yeah, that happened.
Hurt you, Sam.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
Not even sorry a little bit, because this is so amusing to me.
I'm not, yeah, I'm a little embarrassed that I did that, but I did it. And I also don't want to get on the blacklist for mentioning him on the internet.
Right, so it's not a person that did
it's a place and a thing, but not a person.
Not a person, nor a place, nor a thing, because nothing happened, dear listeners.
And I am like, actually his poetry advice was really good. I ordered the book he gave me with the ISBN. I was impressed. I found it's out of print, but I found a like cheap copy, and he suggested some people I hadn't read, like what's his name? It's a Japanese poet. It's like Bako or Bashko. Japanese is hard.
Japanese is hard. So this is ArtIswear.
I'm Vanessa Van Alstyne.
I'm Katie Gibbs. And today we're going to be talking about
Jean-Michel Basquiat.
Basquiat. Baskets of Basquiat.
This is actually somebody I don't know a ton about, because I know a bit about his work, but like him personally, I don't know a whole lot. I've seen the Julian Schnabel film.
Right.
That has like David Bowie as Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
But and I didn't know that was David Bowie. Probably because I'm clueless, but yeah.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It'll be okay.
It'll be okay.
He was also in a film for Blondie.
Yeah, and I mean, the Schnabel film was like, I think it was made like 10, 20 years after he died. He's 27 Club, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually he exhibited with Schnabel.
Schnabel.
All right, he exhibited with Schnabel and several other Neo-Expressionist contemporaries.
Postmodernist, yeah.
Whatever, it's at the top of the thing.
You can pull your notes up on the phone. He was obviously a contemporary of Keith Haring, if you know the like.
He knew Keith Haring.
Yeah, primary color like graffiti art that's like people doing things. Haring died really young of AIDS.
Yep, he died. I think Haring died after Basquiat did.
He was still really young. I think he was in his 30s.
Right.
And yeah, they were both graffiti artists at the same time. Just obviously Haring was gay, and Basquiat wasn't, to my knowledge. I'm pretty sure he liked the girls.
He did like girls.
Yeah.
He dated Madonna before she was Madonna.
Mm-hmm. Which goes back to our Nestor Zaragoitia interview, who recorded Madonna's demo stuff. Nestor's an interesting guy. The audio is not the best, but I encourage you guys to go back and listen to his 2 interviews. Neo-Expressionism, if you think about, I mean, neo means new, obviously. If you've ever watched the Matrix films, that's been beat into you like a very lonely person with a very angry stick. It's a metaphor.
I have questions about your metaphor use.
I feel like I channel Opus the Penguin.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, we have similar tastes in hats.
Well, obviously.
Yeah,
and your hats are fabulous, and so is Opus. So
ironically, my dad, who passed away in 2015, went to UT with Burke Breathed.
Huh.
Yeah. They were in the same fraternity.
All right.
Yeah. Apparently Burke liked to lead panty raids, but was otherwise fairly quiet.
The more you know.
Panty raids. That's like all I know about fraternity culture, that and like beer and date rape.
That's a thing, right? I know the ins and outs of newer fraternities. Like, by newer, I mean my husband graduated like 93 and he was Kappa Sig at A&M. So
yeah,
I know what they did, and I know they played Space Invaders
with people
and rooftops.
Well, speaking of college, I also know that Basquiat didn't go to college.
Thank you for bringing it back.
I brought it back. I'm good at that.
He did not. He actually dropped out of high school, but
he went though to a magnet school for the arts that was run by a lot of.
It's a public school, but it's
a prestigious public school where the teachers are the people that also teach at like Columbia and the art department and some of the very nice like city schools that are prestigious for the arts. Pratt.
Yeah. So early life, Jean-Michel Basquiat was the second of 4 siblings. His eldest brother died right before Basquiat was born, and then he had 2 sisters after that, I think, kind of stair steps. And
he was born was in the Caribbean, right?
I think his mom was from she was from the Caribbean. His dad was Haiti and she was Caribbean, I think.
Okay.
Or Puerto Rican.
That's part of the French name, though. A lot of those, some of those were French colonies, some of them weren't. It's like Louisiana, there's a lot of French names. Texas, there's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no, she was Puerto Rican, he was Haitian, and his mom liked to take the kids to museums all the time and always wanted to, instill a love of the arts in her children. So by 4, Basquiat was already developing a lot of talent. He was already writing well. He was reading. He was doing art. He was expressing himself quite well.
I know I believe his mom was mentally ill too. So some of that had a big influence on like his outlook on things, because I think she was schizophrenic. And so it's a logic system that's not cohesive, so that kind of, I think, influences him in a way.
And in his about high school, his mom and dad get divorced, and she didn't handle it well. She kind of went into like this spiral of depression.
That's unfortunate,
right? And Basquiat's father, once Basquiat dropped out of high school, like the main public high school, Basquiat's father kicked him out, even though he went to City of the Public Arts and everything else. Basquiat ended up sleeping on friends' couches and selling T-shirts and postcards and having to do drug deals so that he could keep himself fed.
Well, and the other thing is he's also doing drugs.
Right.
And
that's where this
will circle back around, but that's, that's also going on.
That's where that introduction to the drug culture came in. At one point, they moved, his family, before everybody divorced and everything, they moved to Puerto Rico for a couple of years, moved back to Brooklyn. So he had a very worldly kind of culture all through his childhood.
In the Schnabel film, she takes him to see Guernica. I don't know if that actually happened, but you could it's like shown as this like revealing moment to this child. And everybody I've ever known that's actually like seen that painting in person, they describe it as like this life-changing thing. I even ran into a waitress at Bar Louie over at Firewheel who had part of Guernica on her arm because she'd seen it and had never been able to get it out of her mind.
Huh.
It was interesting. I was like, I know what that work is.
We'll have to do that sometime.
She's like, you're one of like 4 people that's ever gotten that.
Oh my God, I want to find this woman now. Challenge accepted.
You are awesome, Bar Louie waitress.
I think about 7 or 8, when Basquiat was 7 or 8, he got hit by a car playing in the street. Right? And it broke his arm in several places, but he also ended up, due to some internal injuries, having to have a splenectomy. And during the recuperation period, Basquiat's mom purchased him Grey's Anatomy. And I actually don't think we have any of the references on this, but it influenced his work later on in life tremendously. And you can see some of his drawings are actually anatomical drawings if you look them up, that almost look like they're straight from the pages.
And I'm going to do a follow-up podcast at some point on postmodernism, because I feel like we're at the point where that kind of needs to
So we can explain
happen, because it'll make people like Basquiat and Jeff Koons and Damien Hirst make a little more sense. It'll make most contemporary people make more sense. I'm a page in and it's solid philosophy. So it's...
So is this one of those where I get drunk and mock the whole time?
Yeah, we did something.
Okay.
Yeah, we might get a 6-pack. I don't know.
Okay.
This is drunken art, I swear.
We're going to try to drunkenly explain postmodernism. I think that's a fabulous little idea.
You're just going to end up seeing bananas in pajamas.
What's wrong with
that?
this?
Happens every time you're drunk.
What's the problem?
That was a horrible show. The British should be ashamed of themselves.
They usually are, and then they apologize, and then they gave us Doctor Who. What's your point?
You gave us Danger Mouse. That's better than Doctor Who.
Them's fighting
I'll
words.
fight you.
Come on.
Yeah.
All right, back to Basquiat. So, since he was born in 1960, 1976, Basquiat begins painting, notably painting graffiti on buildings and subways in Lower Manhattan with his friend Al Diaz.
You know, you're the one that speaks a Romance language, not me.
Al Diaz.
I believe that's Diaz.
Diaz, yeah. Anyway, they went under the pseudonym SAMO, which means same old shit.
So it's kind of like how in Breaking Bad the lawyer is Saul Goodman, and it really means it's all good man. Yeah. It's the same level of goofy humor. And we're looking at we've had on the screen a picture from that period, which is you can see the SAMO tag.
Right.
Shit.
And it was
you have a quote here. Do you want me to read that?
Yeah, go for it.
SAMO, for same old, marked the witty sayings of a precocious and worldly teenage mind that even at that early juncture saw the world in shades of gray, fearlessly juxtaposing corporate commodity structures with the social milieu he wished to enter, the predominantly white art world. Franklin Sermons.
There you go.
Yeah.
Do you agree? Do you disagree? How do you feel about this?
I mean, I feel like a lot of graffiti art is pop culture referencing. It's also a fairly new method of painting in the 70s. I don't believe spray paint was really perfected until the 70s.
Right.
Please don't cite me in an academic paper for that one, because I didn't look this up before we got on here, but it has always been notoriously urban, associated with people of color. And I've said this before about urban art. It's unfortunately usually seen as a lower art because it's accessible to everybody, and it references what the art world considers low subjects. And at this point in the art world, the figure was not okay, allegory is not okay, and highly referential stuff is not okay. You have had your rebels, like the pop artists, which are your Lichtenstein and Warhol and such. But, you know, at this point, not a lot of people are paying attention to him. Now, I do know when he hits it big, the SAMO graffiti, and when Keith Haring hits it big, the same thing happens. People started going up to this is black tar paper on a wall in the subway that you're going to later put posters on. Mm-hmm. People would take a knife and just cut out those sections of black tar paper and go frame them.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Like I heard Nestor one time say you could just see people like walking off the subway with them because they wanted to, you know, this suddenly becomes worth a whole lot of money.
Right.
And I want you to always keep in the back of your mind, when he starts getting attention, he dies at 27.
He lives a very short life.
Yeah, so some of this is too much attention too fast.
Right.
And there's Basquiat with Keith Haring. Aww, little Keith. He's all coordinated. He's all like, look at that hat. I want to kiss him. Like Basquiat is kissing him, like a sweet little kiss on the head.
So during the daytime, at this point, Basquiat would work for this company called Unique Clothing Warehouse. What happened is the owner of that clothing place found Basquiat doing his spray paint on a building and said, I want to hire you. And Basquiat went, okay. So he was a designer for Unique Clothing Warehouse during the day, and at night he'd go spray paint with Al Diaz. The graffiti art started getting noticed really quickly about late 1978 is when what was it? The Village Voice published a piece on Basquiat's graffiti.
If you, after this, watched the Schnabel movie, it's very confusing if you don't already know who the people are in it.
Mm-hmm.
The obviously homosexual critic character is the man that's in the Village Voice that starts writing about Basquiat and kind of like helps his career along.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's to reiterate at this point, he is homeless. He is doing and surrounded by drugs. This is 70s New York with the like
club
rampant,
art scene.
like punk heroin culture. Yeah, this is going to give birth to the club kid culture in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you know, he's not in a good situation, and this guy kind of starts helping elevate him out of it, and they have kind of a confrontational relationship at some points.
Because I imagine Basquiat is disgustingly talented and also really driven on tearing himself apart.
I heard a story from an art professor here in Dallas, and I'm gonna like omit names so that nobody gets in trouble. One of the very wealthy art patrons who's, you know, white upper crust Dallasites is from the 70s, especially, are kind of that Dallas stereotype. I mean, the TV show.
Yeah.
As worldly as they try to be, there's always a little bit of that like homeboy culture. So one of them agreed to host Basquiat so he could have a show at the Dallas Museum of Art.
No.
Long story short, the guy ended up at midnight driving around Deep Ellum trying to figure out where he could buy weed for Basquiat. Because he refused to do anything if he didn't get weed.
No way.
Yes. Yes. So there you go.
Oh my God,
That's beautiful, isn't
beautiful.
it? Yeah. Excuse me, Sonny. You got any of that marijuana?
I need some grass.
Grass?
Do you sell grass?
I got green for green. I'm just saying.
Oh my God. Going to hell.
I wish I could say that he then like bought a like, you know, $80 bag of oregano, but that would be me making something up.
Be cool. So eventually Basquiat and Diaz have a falling out, and Basquiat starts tagging through Soho. SAMO is dead. I think 1979 is about when that happened. And then after taking note of that missive, Keith Haring decided to stage a mock wake for SAMO at Club 57.
Nice.
You're welcome.
I would party with Haring.
Oh, hell yeah.
Lots of cheek kisses, because look at those cheeks.
He was just so sweet.
So cute looking. I mean, I don't know that he was a nice guy, but he looks like it.
Yeah. Well, I'd kiss Basquiat too, because he's cute.
Yeah, I will. He was an attractive fellow.
Basquiat was also a musician. He had a music career brewing during the same time. He did this noise rock band called Test Pattern, which turned into Gray. He was actually really into the grunge punk scene, and he was in Blondie's movie Rapture, music video Rapture in 1981.
You know what I just realized? You were teaching me about a contemporary artist. What the fuck happened here?
You made me do an outline.
You picked Basquiat. You could have picked, like, you know, I don't know, anything.
I love Basquiat.
You love a contemporary artist.
I'm not talking to you anymore.
It's strange to me.
It is strange.
There's stranger things in the world, though.
Yeah.
There's also a TV show called that. It's pretty good.
There was also a TV show called Are You Afraid of the Dark? It was on Nickelodeon on Saturday nights.
The answer is still no. Get back to your outline.
So right about that same time, 1981, is when Basquiat becomes acquainted with Andy Warhol.
That's the year I was born.
Whatever.
My birth heralded this friendship. No, that's not true.
Whatever, old lady.
Yeah, I know.
It was 1982. What?
You're so old.
Yeah, but you're still older.
It's never going to change, is it?
Nope. So
how that genie.
So how that happened, Warhol was in a restaurant. Basquiat came and introduced himself and showed Warhol some of his work, and they became friends. Basquiat ended up looking up to Warhol like a mentor and a friend, and Warhol helped him out.
And in the movie, Bruno Berschhoff, God, what am I? How am I not remembering? My God, where's the Googles? I need the Googles.
Oh,
Bruno art collector.
The days.
It says Reno art collector. El Reno. No, Google.
You remember the days when we had to pull out encyclopedias to do this? And you were really cool if you had an encyclopedia.
We had the kids' encyclopedia.
I got Encarta.
Okay, it's Bruno Bischoff. Is that right? Yes. Bruno Bischoff. He is a major international art dealer, and he was supposedly with Warhol when Warhol, according to the movie, I don't know if Schnabel got that right. Schnabel also inserts himself in the movie, showing off some of his paintings, which I found really, really funny.
Right.
It's like, look, I knew it. Anyways, we'll do one on Schnabel at some point. So, yeah, Andy Warhol and
Basquiat.
Though in the movie, they kind of hint that Basquiat's death made Andy so upset it killed
the other
him.
way around.
That's not. No, that's all. It's all. What is it?
Fairy tales and hokum.
Yeah, it's apocryphal.
Did you just use a word that I would have to look up?
Apocryphal? It's like after the fact made up.
Yeah, no, what happened was Warhol died first, because Warhol died in 87, and then Basquiat died in 88.
Well, it's one of them did not mourn the other one into the grave. That was not accurate.
Well,
that was just Schnabel being an artist.
Well, then don't read the end of my thing.
Did you just watch the Schnabel movie and make an outline?
Yeah, that's totally how I did my outline.
I mean, people get upset, but that's not.
No, what really happened was he was already in a depressive cycle.
Yeah.
And his heroin use got kind of out of control. He tried, and this is later, but I don't care. We're going to do it now. So by the end, Warhol dies, I think, what is it? Something 87. Basquiat is already kind of in a depressive cycle, as I said. He ends up using more heroin. That gets out of control. He tries to get sober. He actually flies out to Maui or something to.
That's what it says in your note, that he tried to sober himself up, then the end died of a heroin overdose in his studio, August 12th, 1988.
Blech.
Well, and that's always what gets people. Like, if you quit it, you got to stop, because your body's not used to it. If you go back and you try to do the same, like, that's what killed Amy Winehouse.
Right.
That happens a lot. It's that relapse. Sometimes it just gets you.
And heroin's tough to kick. I mean,
kids, don't do heroin.
There you go.
Don't be Kurt Cobain.
Don't be Basquiat. I mean, he was brilliant, but
yeah, don't romanticize that one. Heroin's a horrible drug that has killed tons of people who had a lot of potential and then didn't meet it because they were junkies. I've seen plenty of artists that their careers were just ruined by the fact that they were freaking junkies.
It's heartbreaking.
It is.
Let's see.
Do you want to talk about his first solo exhibition?
I would love to. So, and now we're going back in the time machine because as this is an art history podcast, we're not going to do anything timeline-wise.
Why would we do that?
Why are you scratching your eye at me?
Because my eye itches. If you go outside, everybody's car is slightly green from pollen.
It is terrible.
Ugh.
And everything is covered in it, and it's in my nose, and
I draw pictures in it for people. I'm like, look, they'll come out and, you know, get to go to work and see a smiley face and be happy.
aw,
Yeah.
that makes me happy. So his Basquiat's first solo exhibition was at the Anina Nosei Gallery.
Sounds good to me.
Sure. In Soho in 1982. He was also showcased with Schnabel,
David Sally,
and several others in other galleries. He left the Anina Nosei Gallery in 86 and was showing at the Mary Boone Gallery in Soho.
We did mention her in the gallery podcast, I think.
Right. And I think that's where he was showing where he was showing when he died. Words.
I believe you're right. And I think Boone handles some of his estate stuff still.
I think so too. So I included just a couple samples of Basquiat's work for Vanessa to dissect for us. The first one, aside from the graffiti, is called Skull, but it's Skull. Made in 1984, acrylic and mixed media.
Well, what do you think's going on in this picture?
At first glance, it looks like the inside of somebody's head, and you get to see the kind of madness within, like all the little boxed little rooms and the darkness. There's kind of barely formed shapes and like hints at things. Very thick lines outlining kind of the skull. You can see where he's got the Grey's Anatomy, like he's looked at how the skull is supposed to be shaped and where anatomically what's supposed to be going on. You can see it in how the teeth are here in the skull, but it's just it feels like it was randomly put on there, but it just feels like madness was captured on a canvas.
How is the background handled?
For me, reading left to right, because the left side has that blue palette, then we move over to this orange. It's like going from a calm sense over to this kind of frantic, hectic. There's that blue and black down in the bottom right corner that kind of...
Okay, and his treatment of color, especially in the background and his line work, does it remind you of any periods of art history?
Now you're just testing me.
Yes, I am.
God. Yeah, he actually had a lot of influence from his Caribbean, also from
So pre-Columbian influence?
some pre-Columbian.
Is that why you like it, Katie? I
See,
knew that's why you liked it. I just wanted you to confess. Confess.
I'm not telling
It's
you.
a comfy chair for you.
This is actually surprisingly comfy.
I know. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Nobody expects a Spanish Inquisition.
And nobody expects my mid-century modern theater chairs to be that comfortable.
They really are.
I need to put some wood under them, but whatever.
It does kind of look Darth Vader skull-ish, and it also looks like he's starting to have a brain leak right
There's
here.
like rooms in the head.
Yeah.
Does it remind you of modernism at all?
You're gonna have to define modernism to me. I
Like,
mean, it
let's
doesn't.
look at the like surrealists that were not Dolly, like Gene Arp. Do you remember that guy?
Yes.
So what you're seeing here is a juxtaposition of style, allegory, and technique However, what he is not trying to do is make something new. This is not a form of painting that is, in the artist's mind, wholly original in some way.
Right.
So these are the keys to postmodern art. And one of the reasons they call this Neo-Expressionism, you're expressionist, you're old school, you're oldie expressionist. I don't know what's the French word for old.
Oh,
put you on the spot. Put you on the spot.
New is nouveau, so old would be. I don't know.
Katie feels French. Okay.
Siri, what's the French word for old?
Checking. Okay, I found this.
Vieux, if you're referring to age, and d'artefois, if you're referring to time, which I've never learned d'artefois, and that's a new one for me.
So d'artefois expressionism.
Okay.
Matisse, Van Gogh.
Right. Okay.
Van Gogh is kind of a fauvist.
But that
area is very blurry, but it's vivid color, more abstract, loose areas of paint,
which they pulled from the Caribbean. That color.
Yeah,
that
you have what's his
color.
name? Gauguin, who went to Tahiti.
Right.
Which that's not the Caribbean, but it's Melanesia, and that's also. It has some things that are kind of similar to the Caribbean in a weird way.
Tropics.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's like, look, we got colorful, festive birds. Let's paint like that. Parrots are just festive birds.
Loud, angry, pissy, bitey, festive birds. Don't get a parrot.
Show me on the doll where the parrot touched you.
It is the devil.
I have a cat that plays Tony Hawk skates in the bathtub at 2 a.m. I do not need a parrot.
Sarah has a parrot. His name is Gallifrey. He's going to be fried chicken soon.
What kind of parrot?
Angry.
Okay. You know, my great aunt, she had these two little, they were those little tiny green parrots. One was named Odie, and I told her, if you outlive Odie, Odie's going in the box with you.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. All Gallifrey does is scream at the highest, loudest decibel he can.
All Odie
every
did was
20
bite.
seconds.
So one of the things I should probably explain that I said when it comes to postmodernism is the word allegory. Do you know what allegory means, Katie?
It's when you tell a story.
Pretty much. It's, you know, in painting, it was it used to be that most paintings had a moral or historical story attached to them.
Right.
And that's part of how, like, sometimes you could justify, like, if you were a female patron, well, let's fund a room that's all paintings that are allegories of modesty. So that's okay. There's like naked people, but it's about how they're not going to screw. So I'm going to get away with this.
Wow.
But you know, and this is a real life example, obviously. So it becomes in postmodernism okay to reference like historical events, themes, stuff like that, things that existed pre-impressionism.
Okay.
And it's okay to paint people, and it's okay to reference impressionism and fauvism and pop art and graffiti all in the same painting. And we'll get into why when we do the postmodernism podcast, but I have to sit for a while with that one to make it in any way, shape, or form legible.
So modernism was, we're going to destroy the figure. We're going to...
It's not so much the figure, it's the old mode of creating and create something new and pure.
Right.
Or new and maddening, or it's new.
So they were like mad scientists with paint.
Yeah, and you're only going to take that so far.
Right.
And it's like, even anything modernists did, you can point at something that's, you know, influenced it. There's no such thing as originality, really.
Because you haven't lived in a void.
Yeah, that's, you're always influenced by somebody. The people that don't acknowledge that are hacks. But it's like we get to the point where it's like we can keep chasing the new dragon, but
Right.
And then pop art is part of what starts to change that. And pop art's kind of spearheaded for a long time by Warhol. And so that's part of why he gets along with Basquiat, as you can see the references to what are pop culture things for Basquiat and like new innovative methods of creating. And that's all very appealing to Warhol.
Right.
I like this one that you picked, Boy and Dog on a Johnny Pump, 1982. I'm going to assume that's a pogo stick. Acrylic crayon and spray paint on canvas. And I love crayon. If you use Crayola crayons on canvas, you got to justify that to your art teacher because it's considered such a like low thing. And I'll say this, like, once you've used the like fancy oil color, like kind of crayon things, you go, oh, real crayons.
So apparently a Johnny Pump is a fire hydrant, especially in New York, especially lower Manhattan.
Okay.
And one that like you can flip open in the summer for the kids to play in the water.
So like I always thought that was like illegal and kids just pop those, but they like let kids play in those in New York.
Well, I don't know if they let them so much as the kids do it or did it. I don't know. New Yorkers, let us know.
Dude, in Texas, if you're lucky, you can go out and play with the hose.
You can't drink from the hose anymore. Do you know how many CPS like agents would show up at your door for that?
Why?
Because you're drinking from the hose.
What's wrong with drinking from the hose?
Apparently, like you could catch your death.
Is this how I got the brain leeches?
No, I put those in your ear while you sleep.
I love you too. Yeah, and I don't even know if they do that, but like I was also going to say like drought season though. If you use that hose, yeah, your mom's going to come out and beat you with it.
Oh, dude, the whole neighborhood will. It's pitchfork time. They will watch you from windows in suburbia when you're watering on during the summer.
I have this really stuck up friend, and I told her once I try to like conserve water during drought with if it's yellow, let it mellow. I thought she was going to die. Hopefully that didn't show up on the recording. Yeah, she's just like, that'll like strip the porcelain. I'm like, I rent, I don't care.
Oh my God. It's not going to stay in there that long.
Now everybody knows way too much about my peeing habits. Anyways,
that's what editing's for.
I don't really edit that stuff out. I've got serious problems, and if you haven't figured it out at this point, I've been doing this for over a year now. Were you on the Dada podcast?
Yeah.
Because that was a year ago today.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
I think that was my first one.
It's been a year.
Happy anniversary, me. And I did an outline again.
I know. It's like one of like 3.
Woohoo!
You're not that bad.
So tell me about Boy and Dog on a Johnny Pump.
That Johnny Pump must be on fire. I don't know. There's this like seafoam green color that's mixing with these like very like fiery reds and yellows that use some aggressive loose brush strokes, and it looks like the green is kind of like hitting the person and a dog and letting them out. It looks like he originally painted the person and the dog with black paint and then came in and like graffitied and painted over. There's some like kind of references to Mondrian in the arms, and I want to say he probably was a Cy Twombly fan. The face is kind of like a skeleton with just 2 white circles for eyes and like very obvious teeth,
which has kind of a pre-Columbian or African
or Caribbean
artwork feel to it.
And the like one of his feet is blue. Obviously, that's the part getting cooled off by the fire hydrant. It looks like the dog was on fire and the fire hydrant's putting it out. Poor dog.
It kind of looks like if you look at it sideways, which is what I'm doing now anyway, it looks like a Keith Haring homage just around the...
Could be. Oh, and the dog has a halo.
Yep.
And I know how this guy worked. Basquiat would like paint, then paint over and paint, then paint over. So these are very like thick and layered. But what's amazing is they still stay very flat in the background in a lot of places, except for where he deliberately gives them dimension or strokes.
Right.
So it shows that he's very good at controlling his paint, which is
very hard.
I mean, you can tell he had some training.
And you can see, like, in the human body, it's like his skeleton is actually made up of pipes.
Yeah.
Like, he is just a
referencing
form.
the Johnny Pump.
See, look at me.
Yeah, I know he had a sense of humor, so some of these are kind of like there's a little bit of a joke in there.
Right.
One thing that I noticed you didn't pick as any artwork with the SAMO crown. That's like our tattoo artist Joe is like, yeah, my first year, everybody loves Salvador Dali, and everybody's drawing the damn SAMO crown.
Everybody knows the SAMO crown.
Yeah, it's like 3 prongs, no
Right.
under circle. I sometimes draw it on stuff to dick with people.
Oh my god, where did I recognize this from?
So you want to talk about the next painting, which is flexible?
Well,
The painting is not flexible. The title is flexible.
the title is flexible.
1984.
Right, and it's mixed media, acrylic, canvas, spray paint.
You can definitely see a reference to my least favorite term, primitive art. Edit out the pause from me coughing up a lung.
Oh, who needs lungs? Speaking of lungs, they're drawn in here.
Yeah, they are drawn in there.
It's a white background, kind of like that faded antique-y.
It looks like it's made up of boards, and
Right.
I know sometimes he would construct canvases out of street junk.
Might be.
He also painted on tires.
He also painted on walls and subways. Like,
Yeah.
it just kind of came out.
I don't think his work is precious to him.
I think he just needed that outlet. Like, it feels very spontaneous.
Yeah, and I know that's a weird thing to say about an artist, but for some artists, I can think of like so many examples of this of people I know. Their art for them is like their precious baby. They just love it and nurture it and put so much of themselves into it. And gosh, it's hard for them to send it out into the big cruel world. And then you get some people that it's just like, it's kind of a compulsion, or they're very okay with the fact that their children have to grow up and get the F out, like they're ready for the next thing. And I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like he was making a lot of money by the end of his life, so that might have helped.
Right.
Unfortunately, this was a lot of money for somebody who was, 1, very young, and 2, very addicted to heroin. It would have been interesting to see what happened after the fame started to fade and he had to like reinvent himself.
Right.
Because he's this very marked person for this like flash in the pan moment that he's famous, but like, could that have continued?
There's no doubt that he was brilliant.
Yeah.
So I think he would have found a way. I mean, he was always a scrapper and he was brilliant. So
some people just don't evolve though.
Right. But
I mean, yeah, you're right. I don't see any reason to think he didn't, but it's one of those things like you kind of have to ponder because we'll never know.
I think he would have been one of those that would have ebbed and
flowed, and
right.
And then most people do that.
Right.
There's very few people that it's
I think
hit out of the park every time.
I think he would have stayed in the public. He would have been public more often than not, you know. But I think it like because he was an artist and musician and very obviously well read, I think he had to have some kind of outlet to keep going, especially dealing with the depression, especially dealing with all the things he had to deal with going on in his head, that he needed that.
So it's interesting, this painting is once again that black form that's drawn and painted over.
Right. The head looks almost like the Area 51 type alien head with an elongated forehead, a kind of malformed skull.
It looks like West African art to me.
Right, I could see that.
Which has a huge influence on the Caribbean. That's where most of the African Caribbean population comes from.
Right.
I mean, that's where that's where the slave trade happened. That's the Ivory Coast.
Thanks, America.
America. What's interesting too is the like blurred text over the head that almost looks like a halo or a crown. It looks like it's been like scribbled out or erased or both, which is something he commonly did. And that's another thing that's important to postmodernism is the role of the word, because it ties into like Derrida's philosophy.
Okay.
And there's like kind of a circle around the whole body, and the arms make this like lopsided, like it kind of looks like the state of Oklahoma or a pan.
Yeah, if you turn your head, it looks like Oklahoma.
Yeah, Oklahoma is just Texas's hat.
Everyone is Texas's hat. Unless you're Mexico.
Mexico is Texas's pants.
We had them
Please
boys.
send hate emails to artiswear@gmail.com.
I am so sorry, everybody. But the hands are in this weird loop, like the opposite of the infinity
I
sign.
just now realized you made a fart joke. I had like tuned that out. I've been spending too much time with my husband.
I snuck it in. It was
Spending
silent but deadly.
Too much time with your kids. I'm not making. I don't have a good fart joke, so I'm gonna pretend like I'm, on my high horse and just not gonna make one. But we all know I would make one if I thought of one.
Okay.
I'm a little shit like that.
That's dear Vanessa, I'm coming over to your house. I'm going to Starbucks. Do you want anything? To have two of me. No worries. See you in a bit. Of course, my stomach is now like, abandon all hope, all ye who enter here. Really?
Cheese.
You want to tell me you can't make fart jokes?
I have IBS.
You have lactose intolerance.
And IBS. It's a horrible, wrong combo.
And you ate cheese.
I know.
So now that we
all really
have distracted
too much about Vanessa's bathroom habits.
Can you please finish
Just
dissecting
remember,
this
guys,
painting?
the second part of the rhyme is if it's brown, flush it down. I'm just saying.
Oh my god. And baskets of Basquiat and buckets of poop. Then that's our podcast.
It's oh man, my husband was watching this YouTube video by like some like neocon Republican guy who's British. I'm wincing in pain here. Anyways, he was talking about how like it's horrible because the arts have literally canned shit. Like who can take any kind of art seriously? I'm like, the canned shit happened in like 1932. Come on, dude, get with the times. He could not cite a like extreme art thing that hadn't happened before like the 1990s.
It's really sad.
Yeah, it's speaking of extreme. This painting kind of creeps me out.
Yeah,
I think that's why I don't want to talk about it.
I think that's why I'm having trouble with it too. We keep distracting
It's
ourselves.
got like angry vampire teeth and like magical alien eyes, and I'm pretty sure it would bite me if given the chance.
And it's kind of giving you an x-ray into the human form. You can see kind of outlines of lungs, the outline of just what maybe somebody would think is a stomach in that small human body. The same with the arms. You can see where the bones are supposed to be, here on the right arm and then here on the left arm.
You know who it reminds me of is that voodoo deity that wears the top hat and has the skull painted on his face.
The one in Princess and the Frog?
You know, that's actually referencing a real like voodoo.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So it and I mean, once again, that's West Africa going into the Caribbean, and
Dr. Facilier.
I think that's his name in the Disney thing. But
I
that's
have
not,
kids.
It's not. I don't remember the actual.
Please
I get
do
points.
it.
Yeah, please correct me, please.
Yeah, I
please.
actually want to know about that, so hit us up. But anyway, yes, it's creepy. Can we move on now?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to show. There's just notes.
On when he died.
Notes. There's some books.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of information out there. We were lucky insofar as there's a lot of documentation on how he lived and what he created. He was very prolific.
It sounds like, from everything I know, when he wasn't depressed, he was a cool guy to have at a party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He seemed like a really interesting guy.
intelligent, insightful,
Right.
creative young person. And it's a shame. Once again, kids, just don't do drugs.
Right.
Don't do that to yourself. Say no to the heroines
Yeah.
and the cocaines.
Don't do the heavy drugs, kids.
Yeah.
Or drugs.
Yeah. Just drugs.
Right. Just
Awkward pause.
drugs.
Drugs.
Says the person on Adderall.
Crack is whack.
I'm on legal meth, kids.
Yeah, well, you've got ADD. It's not like you're snorting it and going to parties.
Wee! You know what it would
quit
do?
duct taping your daughter to the bed ages ago.
It just... I'm going to take my Adderall and then go take a nap.
Yeah.
Wee! That's when you know you have ADD.
I think I told you I accidentally took one of my husband's Adderalls. I thought it was a stomach, like heartburn medicine. It's really like omeprazole times 2.
Right?
And yeah, I started so many things I did not finish. It was horrible.
I'm so sorry. I love you.
It's okay. It's what you get for taking other people's drugs.
That's right.
We're in the hospital for 2 weeks because of pleural-C. Yeah.
That was pulmonary embolisms.
Yeah.
Because taking other people's drugs. The rule of that story is, kids, don't take other people's drugs.
Yeah, stay out of other.
Or other people's birth control that is not prescribed to you, because then you can't sue the fucking manufacturer for putting you in the hospital for 2 weeks and giving you $50,000 worth of medical debt and ruining an entire semester of your freaking college.
And being on blood thinners for how long?
8 months.
Yeah.
And it's not just, it's warfarin, it's rat poison. It was developed as rat poison. And then they were like, this actually has medicinal effect. Please have some blood thinners. By the way, never eat spinach while you're on this. Please eat at normal times and like the same type of meal every day, or else your shit's going to go all out of whack. I was a college student with a daughter and a husband and 3 jobs. That ain't happening. So anyway, rant over. That was Basquiat. I feel
like there's been a lot of life lessons here.
Well, and I feel that's appropriate for Basquiat.
Yeah.
I feel like he was the original. Well, not the original, but definitely a brilliant ADD.
And I feel sorry for him that, you know, he was homeless and and he ends up having to turn to
selling drugs.
Yeah, doing things that are illegal to
support
make money.
Himself.
And I can't imagine being in a situation where your kid drops out of high school and you have to make that kind of call. I don't know that I'd kick them out, but I think I'd be like, get a job.
Yeah, from what I understand, his father was a lot harsher than his mother.
Yeah. I mean, we weren't there. I'm
right.
not gonna, but you know,
we're not even on second or third hand accounts. We're on like 12 hand accounts by now.
But maybe if you're ever in that position with your own kids, think long and hard about where this ultimately ended up. Yeah, you made a lot of money, but all of the money in the world doesn't bring you back from the grave.
True story.
All right, so this has been a very, you know what I should plug?
What should you plug?
I started a new podcast. We have 1 whole episode out as the time of this recording. And probably I'm going to put this out like tomorrow. So,
Hi everybody.
Hi everybody. I'm Mickey Mouse.
So tell me about your new podcast.
My new podcast is called Phantom of the Podcast.
Dun, dun, dun. I felt
Is
like
that also Sprague Zarathustra from 2001?
Maybe.
Okay. So
you'll never know.
That's Phantom of the Opera. The Phantom of the 2001 version. Like it's the Phantom of the Opera in space. It'd be like Hellraiser in space. Like probably make as much sense.
That it was horrible. So tell me about your podcast. I'm the one with ADD. Tell me about your podcast.
I live with a person. Anyways, so we're starting with the book, The Phantom of the Opera. Yeah, there's a book. There's a book. It turns out it was originally a like serial paper story, and then it was made into a novel, and then translated to English around 1910. And we're going to watch all kinds of Phantom of the Opera related media and discuss it, talk about our like weird fan shippings, who we like, what we didn't like, and you know, if this movie really is, phantom worthy, much like, Elaine and Seinfeld would wonder if men were sponge worthy, we're wondering if it's really deserves the title Phantom.
Excellent. So is there a grading system on, like, I give this 5 phantoms out of 5?
No, that would be like way too much forethought.
I feel like you should pull this
I can always add it later.
Okay, yeah, because you're only like 1 in so
we
far.
we go like, how does this Eric compare to, now that we've watched a couple of things, we got a couple in the hat for this one, so it'll be somewhat regular released. But it's me, John Bailey from Popcorn Junkie, and L Class from it's L Klaus from Focus on Fantasy Romance, and she's also a paranormal romance writer.
She's actually quite good.
She is. I like her, obviously. I don't actually plug friends who make crappy stuff. I just
If you ever wonder why I haven't been plugged on this podcast, people.
You written a novel?
Damn it.
Yeah, there's the sticking point.
Fine.
But yeah, so Elle has interesting insights because she does write romance, but yeah, so I think it's a fun ride.
Oh yeah, it's great.
We're taking it as serious as is appropriate.
So not at all.
Not yeah.
So guys, if you're listening to this, obviously you like at least some of the format, so go check out Phantom of the Podcast. It is actually an awesome ride.
There's a Facebook page. You can also go to phantompodcast.com. I'll probably put it in the show notes because I like pimping myself.
Anyone else we need to plug? Have we plugged Joe before?
Yeah, we have. I now have we'll talk about that next podcast. Fair. All right. This has been Art I Swear. I'm Vanessa Van Alstyne.
I'm Katie Gibbs.
And you have a creative day there.
Oh, do we have to do the Iridile and the...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Joe Giggs in our intro, outro. He lives in New York City, so maybe he's like walked where Basquiat walked. I mean, I guarantee he has, but... And then...
And he wouldn't, hopefully does not have any of the...
No, he doesn't. Okay. And then, Iridile's all the samples.
And have a creative day.
Have a creative day. Bye.
Bye.